The question I'd like to start with, hello, is a snapshot, just a picture, an image, a very short report from the last week's practice of, what the last week of practicing with open, radiant knowing and cradling has been like, or whatever else, but just a snapshot to get everybody's voice in the room. I'm going to start with, for me, you can do this in any weather. That's my snapshot. Whether you're feeling on top of the weather or under the weather, you can do it in any weather. Let's go, Tony, Amy, and we're going to skip the weather report for tonight. Although you can throw that in if you want as your hello. Tony, Amy, and then Helen. Tony?
Uh, I've been noticing more of those the four. I'm not great with repeating them, but the four brightness
Uh-huh.
and butterflying and all that good stuff. So I've been experimenting with that quite a bit the last week.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. And Amy?
Yeah, and I've been noticing the radiant.
Noticing the radiant. Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And Helen?
Yeah, I sort of what I said this morning about not feeling so as much concerned with the language and understanding the language, but
Okay.
doing the practice and also noticing, feeling curious about just the difference of experience.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Day to day with the practice.
Okay. And that's Margaret under the Jones Callahan. It looks like me, but that's actually Margaret's video. Margaret, are you there? She might have stepped away, that's our Zoom. That's what I have up on the Zoom account. Let's go to Michelle, Bonnie, and Kathy, and we'll give Margaret a chance later. Michelle?
I thought of two words: relaxing into the practice. Grateful.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And Bonnie?
Thinking a lot, thinking a lot about cradling.
Okay. Okay. Kathy, Kevin, Steve. Kathy.
I have been continuing to enjoy the small glimpses many times by just relaxing and opening, stopping, relaxing, and opening. And I had a great experience of cradling on Sunday when my first grandchild was born.
Ah, lovely. Okay. And Kevin?
I'll go with leaving things alone.
All right.
What was that? I didn't hear it.
Leaving things alone.
We may come back for an explanation later, but it's very evocative. Steve.
Well, I'm still working with the pause, relax, open pro, I call it, just so it's like a little trigger for me. I say pro, and I automatically kind of pause, relax, and open. And
Okay.
so that's helped. But I think that of the four doorways or qualities or whatever we want to call them, allowing, you're calling cradling, has been the one that's kind of stuck with me the most.
Uh-huh. Excellent. Okay. And Joan?
essential and sparkly. I have taken to noticing things that sparkle, which could be anything. They might not even be literally sparkly, but anyway, it's been very helpful for me and essential. The whole practice is essential.
Okay. And Margaret, where this is like a postcard from the field, right?
I would say a deeper peace and more acceptance of the sort of really old familiar patterns that that are still there, and they're subtle sometimes, but they're still there. And instead of being annoyed by them, I have a deeper sense of peace and acceptance around it.
Those are wonderful. I'm going to pin the video to myself. Those are all. I'll ask everybody to put yourself back on mute if you haven't. Those are a wonderful lead into what I want to share tonight. I'm actually going to take just a moment here. I think my camera's a little bit fuzzy. There you go. Among the many things that got said, all of which were wonderful, the quality of cradling, accepting, allowing, very key to what I want to talk about tonight. And in some sense, the full practice is contained in the instruction of just allowing yourself to rest and open, and then many glimpses over and over of that openness. Keep coming back to that. That's the practice. And everything else is, there are instructions that are intended to support that or to help explore it, but we're exploring the same thing. So, on one level, that allows us, I hope, to relax a bit into, well, there's nothing new. It's not like new information. But maybe another doorway opens to explore a very familiar experience. Something you're already doing or something that you'll remember. Oh yeah, I've been here before. So if I were to sum up tonight, if I were to talk about what this whole thing tonight is about, I think I would call it coming home to yourself. Like that's the essence of the instruction for tonight. And that allowing and accepting and cradling, warmth and holding is very much a quality of coming home to yourself. So much of meditation instruction and a lot of other things, including psychological help. And this is not to critique psychology or any self-help or self-improvement, but a lot of it is delivered in the spirit of there's something wrong with you that can be fixed. And that might be true. It's been true for me. So I don't want to completely like that's not right. But this is coming from a different angle. This is like you just have this natural quality of being aware, of being a human being. And we're just allowing ourselves to come back to that over and over and over. And we can tell the difference between, what's noble and what's ignoble, what's healthy and what's, let's call it excessive or, too lax. We can tell the difference between the way we'd like to be and sometimes the way things are. So it's not that we've lost that in accepting the way things are. It's just like, oh, this is how I am today. So there's an incredible amount of acceptance and allowing and complete permission to be the you that shows up on any given day. As those of you who showed up for the early session 2 days ago know, I was really under the weather. I felt really bad physically. And, it passed happily. But I just, on a 1 to 10 scale, I was at about 2.5, maybe a 2. I was like pretty, and it's like, that happens. That was my postcard of, you can do this in any weather. Like when the weather was not so happy, it's like, that's what it is. And then today I woke up, I feel great. Well, that's what that is. Of course, I like one more than the other. I mean, I think most people like to be healthy. Some people, maybe they like the other one, but doesn't matter. Whichever way you like it, is like, that's whatever you are, that's how you showed up. And so there's very much a spirit of allowing and not trying to change, especially that you have thoughts or that you have emotions and you have the whole range. If you're like most people, you have a range of emotions. From where I look at the world, the wider the range of your possibility, the more vibrant and alive you are. That doesn't mean, I can get really angry. I don't indulge that very often. But it's there. It's in my deck of playing cards. And I can be completely calm and zoned out. I don't go there very much either. Right? So it's like a number of, there's a wide range. Right? And accepting that they happen. So you're sitting in meditation and all of a sudden you have this feeling, and maybe it's a really happy memory and that makes you feel joyful. That's great. Or maybe it's a really sad memory of when you were hurt and you feel angry again, because for me, hurt goes with anger. It's like, okay, that's what showed up. It's completely accepting of whatever thought, feeling, emotion, or physical sensation, even under the weather, when that shows up, that's what shows up. So allowing yourself to be completely human and not having to be, the perfect human, whatever you might think the perfect human. Everybody's going to have a different idea. So the spirit of coming home to yourself has a lot of allowing of, whoever shows up at the door, that's who you welcome in, right? Complete permission to come home as you are. So we might call that coming home, and I'm gonna give it a one-word name, but the idea is coming home as presence. You're practicing being present. And so when you're sitting and you're just being in your awareness, the experience of awareness, you're there. It's not like you've cut out your history and you've cut out your thoughts and you're divorced your emotions and you're stuffing the sensation. You're present with whatever's there as you, right? And just being human as you are, with all the richness and fullness of the experience. And it's flowing. It's like a river. For me, at least, it's constantly changing. The river has seasons. At least rivers I've been by have seasons. Sometimes they're flowing really strong, like with the spring melt and the rains and all of that. And then in the summer, maybe they slow down. And then, in the winter, they're really slow. Maybe they ice over in the top, but there's something going on underneath, right? They have a season. And so your experience of your own awareness has seasons, has different qualities. Sometimes it's very active. Sometimes you sit down and your mind's going a mile a minute and you have just lots of thoughts and maybe worries and maybe things you're excited about. And it's like, this is great. This is what it is. You come home to that. Or other days I sit down, especially in summer days here where it's beautiful blue sky and everything is calm and I can hear the birds out the window and it's a different feel. Right? So whatever it is, you come home to how you experience yourself in the moment. Because one of the secrets in Mahamudra is we're actually trying to come back to our most natural, elemental, or essential experience, where it's the opposite of making things up. We're sort of unmaking things up to come back to the natural. And the interesting thing, I'm going to be a little bit drawing on the Indo-Tibetan Buddhist roots here, is that the more you come back to that natural flow of the stream, right, in the instruction, coming back to the taken for granted, flowing, lively quality, being aware, and you're just allowing it, then gradually, the story of me and how I have to be or how I want to be begins to sort of melt or unravel or fade away. There's less me in the story in the sense of my designer ego, who I want you to think Brian is. It's just, I'm just here. It's just the flowing, how it showed up. I'm in the flowing. It's not dependent on what I want, other than I'm holding my awareness open to just whatever shows up. And that's good news, that losing of the me. Another way you might say that of the sort of lightening up of the me quality is, most meditators, the more they do this, the more they just rest in the open awareness, you're able to just rest. It's not like you're watching yourself over here. Oh, there I am resting. There I am. You're just resting. Less self-tracking and more just being aware. That sort of splitting the experience, so you're trying to watch yourself be aware, that actually goes in the opposite direction of where we're trying. That's like a thought that's added on top. That's holding on. So the more you come back to this, then the watching begins to fade away. So let's go back to the instruction. Right, so we started with the transmission of Tamil Geshepa, that taken for granted, flowing, lively quality of being aware. It's always there. We take it for granted. So it's so always there all the time. Whenever you go back to it, that's just how it is. It's like the air we breathe. We know, we feel, we experience. It's like, yes, that's it. And if you can just rest in that knowing, it's not something you can grab hold of. It's an experience. These are the instructions from this week. It's open. So it's an experience, not something you can grab hold of. It's not dull. It's not blank. There's a knowing, radiant brightness in it, right? And usually, if you can't feel the knowing, radiant brightness, a way into that is you can sort of see the shimmer of it with the thoughts, feelings, memories, and sensations. The thought itself is not the radiance, but it's reflecting. Oh, the awareness is always expressing itself. Or a memory that comes. And the thoughts and feelings, and they're always moving and shifting, at least they are in me. Right? Even if I have the same thought over and over, I used to give talks and I would just say cheeseburger. I was inspired by a Saturday night skit. Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger. But even if you say cheeseburger over and over, it's always cheeseburger and then another one, cheeseburger, and then it's not cheeseburger. Your thoughts are always, even if they're repetitive, they're different slightly. So it's got this shimmering quality of expression. Right? So thoughts, feelings, memories, sensations, that's the radiance. Right? You can be aware that you're aware. We've done that so many times with the weather check-in that, oh yeah, I know how to be aware. And now we're just being aware that we're aware. And it's the same knowing ability, just turned towards being aware. It's like, oh, I can relax in this being aware. And then I can hold that gently, accepting, cradling, whatever shows up. That's back again to the coming home quality. So it's a very, I'm going on about it, but it's actually a very simple, I think, message of we're just coming home to being present, to how we are, holding our awareness open in the experience. We're focusing on this thing that, it's like the flow of the stream. It's, you just take it for granted. We almost always get distracted by the content, but we're actually looking beyond that, or through that, to the experience of the flow itself. So there are a couple of really folksy metaphors that I want to share tonight that'll help us explore that. This is what we're going to explore this week. This sort of coming home, being present. What does presence feel like? What's that experience like? So here's a story I use for myself, and it's my story. If you have something like this, then that's great. I'd love to hear it. I had a job when I was last in Vancouver, in which I would have, it was a great job, I loved it, and I would get 2 to 3 months off a year. And in the summer, and at Christmas, I worked at a school, I would get a month off at a time. And so the story that I want to tell you, or the image, the folksy image, is the first night of that month-long vacation. And it was important to me that it was a month, because, when I had a vacation and my work was really busy, it was like 80 hours a week and a lot of responsibility. And if it was a week off, I didn't really relax until like the 5th day. And then it was like having a day off and then a day to get ready to go back to work. So it was nice, but having a month felt so different. And so imagine I would have this experience. I worked there for 4 years. I had it 4 times. Every time I was like, this is so wonderful. I would finish work on that last night or last evening before vacation. I was like working so hard to finish all the administrative details, and all the contracts were right, and the computers were running right, and all the backup systems were good, and all that stuff. And then I'd put everything away, close the computer, put on my coat, as I was in a suit and tie job, so I'd like walk out the door, get in my car, drive home, and feeling the relaxing beginning to happen. And then I'd walk into my house and, I'd take my coat off and maybe I'd put it over the sofa or I'd hang it up. And there's this quality of taking off of the work costume. And I'd sit in my chair. At that point, I was still, having a drink. So I'd probably pour myself a scotch. Today, I'd be pouring myself a coffee. Right? And I'd just sit and I'd feel the whole costume drama of work fade away. And I was back to Brian, who wasn't working, just relaxed, Brian as he was, sitting on a sofa or in an easy chair, drink by my side, looking out the window. We had a rose bush that bloomed out the window. Just like, And there's this quality of relaxing and coming home. There are 2 words that are related to Mahamudra practice. And I could do the Tibetan, but I'm going to see if we can do it just in English. If you want the Tibetan, we can throw those in later. The first is a description of how most of us go through life. And you could translate it as all dressed up or wearing the costume. So wearing the Brian costume, wearing the you costume, the way you show up and you put on your work face, or or whatever, you're going somewhere, you put on that face, and you have a sense of your appearance and all your thoughts about what's happening. And it's not completely accepting. It's like, this is how I have to show up. And then underneath of that, there's another expression of the way things really are. That's my take off the coat, sit in the chair. And one way that the way things really are term gets translated in different meditation traditions is your true face. Like who you are when you're not trying to be who you think you should be or who others want you to be. Your true face, your relaxed face. Another way it gets translated is your true nature. It's not that the other is false. The other is you're going to work. You have to put on your work clothes, or you're going to talk to your family and you're hosting a family dinner. You put on your family hosting the dinner face. You're standing in line at the supermarket and the teenage checkout clerk says, "How you doing?" You put in your at the supermarket face, right? None of them are wrong. And then there's your relaxed face, your true face. And you get closer to that with this holding your awareness naturally. You have a pattern of thoughts. We all do. That came up in somebody's postcard from the week, right? I mean, we all have patterns of thought and habits of emotion and ways we hold our body habitually and memories, right? That's just part of being human. So you're experiencing that and you're just letting them flow by. And you're holding the awareness very gently as if you came home to your own experience without expecting yourself to be anybody different than who you are. I had very complicated parents. But my dad, who was a World War II vet and a very complicated guy with a life that had a lot of ups and downs, he knew how to be a host. And so when you showed up, his name was Tom. When you showed up at Tom's door, he always greeted you with a smile. I never saw him greet anybody. I think maybe if the tax people had come, or I never saw police come to the house to say one of his kids had been really bad. They could have, but they didn't. It didn't happen. So, I never saw him not greet people with a smile and come on in and what can I do for you? Would you like a cup of coffee or something? And that's the greeting yourself with the kind of welcoming host of yeah, this is how I am today. Completely relaxing into the openness as you are, coming home to yourself. And that sense of presence, oh. And the reason that's important, I have, 5 other folksy metaphors that are very short, which is what we'll probably practice with. But the spirit of it is this coming home to yourself. Because if you practice from a point of view of not liking yourself or trying to change yourself, the whole thing shifts subtly into self-improvement and you're holding on or grasping. So there's this very gentle, very cradling quality of whoever shows up in my meditation, that's who I accept. And that seems to work pretty good. So there are 5 traditional, very folksy metaphors that I'd like to suggest we could practice this with. And the first one is, so I'll tell you what they are and then I'll explain them. So the first one is be like the open sky. The second, be like a clear mirror. The third, be like the ocean. The fourth, be one with space. And the fifth, be steady like a candle flame. So being like the open sky, just accepting whatever. The sky accepts whatever comes through it. It's bright, it's clear. Imagine a beautiful June or July sky, beautiful sunny day, nice temperature, maybe a light breeze. And it's just whatever's happening, the sky just accepts. A bird flies through, a cloud passes across, an airplane goes this way. Doesn't matter. Sky is just open, bright, accepting. Practice holding your attention like that. The next one, be like a clear mirror. And I don't have a mirror here. I thought about this earlier, but I do have a crystal, which is a crystal ball, which is often on a Buddhist shrine. And see if I can do this. Let me see, what can I hold up? So the crystal, right, it will reflect whatever's in front of it. So if I hold it here, it's reflecting the picture behind me. It does this interesting thing of changing it. And then if I'm behind it, oh, there, I'm upside down. It doesn't hold on. So if I move, it doesn't go, where did Brian go? It's just completely accepting and reflective. And then if I hold up my cell phone, oh, it's reflecting, oh, look, the Apple logo's upside down. Can it do that again? Yeah, there's the Apple logo somewhere in there. Yeah, oh, it's floating around. Oh, where'd the phone go? Oh, no, it's Brian again, right? It has zero preference. The open awareness just reflects like a mirror. Whatever's there, it knows and then lets go. It completely reflects and then lets go. Completely accepting. Oh, there's a pen. A pen's not so easy to do. Let's do coffee cup. There's a coffee cup. And then it lets it go. And then, oh, look. And then there's the picture, right? Completely accepting. Awareness like that. And bright and reflective. So that quality of knowing is there. And the brightness is there with almost with zero preference on the mirror. You know, the mirror, when you wake up in the morning, it reflects who shows up in front of the mirror. It doesn't go, I'm not reflecting you until you shave. You know, it doesn't have a strategy. It just reflects. So be like the sky, be like a mirror, be like the ocean. This one's a little bit more tricky, but very profound. The ocean is vast and deep, and so you're holding your awareness open, and you may, your awareness connects to, just because of how it is, and we could have a long discussion of this, it connects to the vast field of awareness that is available. Awareness is bigger than Brian, and it's bigger than you. You're holding awareness open, and the more you relax with it, the more it may connect. And so it has this vastness and this depth. But oceans also have waves. They're very expressive. And we can divide the ocean up into the waves and the ocean, but we're really talking about the same thing. You can't have a wave without the ocean. Okay, you can have waves of light and waves of sound, but stay with me on the ocean metaphor, right? In terms of an ocean, there's not like a wave that's somewhere other than the ocean. Right? It's actually expressing ocean. It comes up, it's ocean coming up, and then ocean coming down, then ocean coming up again. That's ocean expressing itself. So you can't have a wave without an ocean. And I live by the ocean. You never have an ocean without waves. And so we're resting in that deep, vast profundity, and we'll be working with, is it the wave or is it the profundity? Is it the wave or is it the profundity? It depends on how you look at it. It's the same thing. So there's a lot to explore with that. Act like you were space. Just completely open. There's an old Mahamudra teaching that's very useful to consider in this context. What is the difference between space and awareness? Since they are both described as open, accepting, bright, clear, and the difference is presence. So if you were spacious and present, and then the fifth one is steady like a candle flame. So imagine a candle either protected by like in a hurricane lantern, having the thing around it that prevents the wind from getting to it, or a candle in a very still room, and the candle flame is just burning. It doesn't have a strategy. I'm going to be light now. It's just naturally bright, naturally illuminating, and steady. And so you could hold your attention in the natural brightness and illuminating quality of being aware. And so that's what we'll explore during the week. I have a couple of other things to add, but maybe I could just throw in one other somewhat philosophical maybe psychological comment from the Mahamudra teachings. And this is another old bit of Mahamudra lore, that this natural awareness, this true face that we're coming back to, why don't we remember it? Why have we forgotten it so consistently, and we believe this other story we tell ourselves? And the answer is partly, this is one way of addressing that question. There's more than one answer. This is not the only thing to say. But one thing you might say is that forever we have taken the experience of having thoughts and closed in on them and said, that's me. And then we've believed our thoughts about everything other than me and said, that's the world, that's you and everybody else. And so we've collapsed on the experience of openness and said, that's me. And then we believe our thoughts and say, that's the world. And when we come back to opening up, we're undoing that collapse. This habit of collapsing awareness from an Indo-Tibetan Mahamudra Buddhist point of view is many, many, many lifetimes old. Or if you just want to do this lifetime, however old you are, you've been doing it that long, right? Unless you're already completely awake. And so it's like, oh, we're going to undo that. And we're going to practice undoing that over and over and over. So I had two things. I like to throw in poetry and other things that I'm just trying to illuminate the practice from different angles. I have two things to offer as we come to a close, and then there'll be time for a discussion if you'd like. So the first is, and see if I can pull it up here on my computer. Oh, I have to maneuver things around. The first is a paraphrase of, it's not exactly a quote, but it's close to a quote from Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. And it's lightly edited, but it's, I think, talking about this quality of coming home to yourself and coming home to presence. And so here's Rilke's advice. Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your own heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Live the question now. Perhaps then, someday in the future, you will gradually, without even knowing it, live your way into the answer. I'm going to read it again. Be patient toward all that is unresolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves. Live the question now. Perhaps then, someday in the future, you will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way into the answer. I just thought that was a lovely way of talking about coming home. Of, just whatever shows up, live the question now. And the second thing, this is from Khenpo Tsultrim Gyamtso Rinpoche, and it's a poem that he wrote, and it's called The Song of Mahamudra. And it sort of speaks to what we're talking about. And I thought, oh, this is, and I can share these when I send out the notes from tonight. But here's his poem. Whenever I'm meditating on Mahamudra, I rest without struggle in actual real being. I rest relaxed in a free from wandering space. I rest in a clarity cradled in emptiness space. I rest in awareness, and this is blissful space. I rest unruffled in non-conceptual space. In variety space, I rest in equipoise, and resting like this is native mind itself. That's the first half of a poem. It's, so whenever I'm meditating on Mahamudra, which is what we're doing, the experience of awareness is what it's like to be awake. That's Mahamudra. Whenever I'm meditating on Mahamudra, I rest without struggle in actual real being. I'm just holding my awareness open. I rest relaxed in a free from wandering space. If I wander, I come back. I rest in a clarity, cradled in emptiness space. The experience is open, I'm just holding it. Right? I rest in awareness, and this is blissful space. I rest unruffled in non-conceptual space. In variety space, all the things that happen, thoughts, feelings, memories, sensation. In variety space, I rest in equipoise. Like whatever happens, I can rest in that. And resting like this is native mind itself. And because Kempo liked to teach this in a song, here's the song. Whenever I'm meditating on Mahamudra, I rest without struggle in actual real being. I rest relaxed in a free from wandering space. I rest in a clarity cradled in emptiness space. I rest in awareness, and this is blissful space. I rest unruffled in non-conceptual space. In variety space, I rest in equipoise. And resting like this is native mind itself. A wealth of certainty manifest endlessly. Without even trying, self-luminous mind is at work. Not stuck in expecting results, I'm doing okay. No dualism, no hopes, no fears, ho hey. Delusion as wisdom, now that's being cheerful and bright. Delusion transformed into wisdom, now that's all right. So just resting, whatever comes up, that becomes the wisdom. So I hope some of that was useful, and I'll look forward to our discussion. If you have a thought, a question, something you'd like to share, I'll take the video off a pin, and here we go. One of the great things about Kempo, he died a few short years ago. He was such a wonderful teacher. He was a big guy, and he was always funny, and he would take the starch out of anybody who took themselves too seriously. He took the starch out of me once very thoroughly at Gampo Abbey, and then he would do it with a song and a dance. Like it was like, this should be fun, and the song and the dance helped it be more memorable for a lot of us. I once showed up at Gampo Abbey. He was visiting. He was teaching something very esoteric. I can't remember, some kind of Madhyamaka, Prasangika, something or other, Buddhist logic. And my job as the director, among other things, was to be his aide de camp and administrator of the day and support person. And he's in a nice little house near the Abbey, and I go over. I'm all dressed up in my Shambhala suit and tie, and I have my pins, and I look good. And I show up with the daily schedule, and he takes it out of my hand, and he starts reading, 8 a.m., breakfast is excellently accomplished. And he starts goofing on the schedule. And he gets to the end, and he hands it back and goes, no questions. I was one of the best teachings I ever got about just resting, relax, Callahan. The day will unfold. I thought breakfast is excellently accomplished. The breakfast was sitting on the table beside him. It's like, okay. So, friends, if any of you have a thought or a question you'd like to talk about. Maybe I can say, and maybe there aren't any. The talk is not the instruction. So tomorrow when we practice, I'll offer meditation instruction hold the awareness and think about this or do this with it. But this is more of what are we working with this week? And it's that whole thing of trying to just come home to being naturally present with your relaxed face, with your true face. Right? Kathy,
I hate being the first one up, but I might as well.
there you go.
It's been amazing since the beginning of this series how many times I've encountered people talking about the stream in various ways, various editions. And I'd like to read something about radiance,
Okay.
which is from, it's very short, but it's a quote from Saint Hildegard of Bingen.
Oh,
Yes, very accomplished woman in the medieval.
yeah. Now I'm curious now.
Yeah. Anyway,
Not that I wouldn't have been for somebody else.
yeah, she was very into a way of talking about nature as veritas, the greening of the earth.
Oh,
And so this is something that came to me last week as a gift in a book of some of her sayings. And it is, there is no creation that does not have a radiance, be it greenness or seed, blossom or beauty. It could not be creation without it.
there you go.
And we're created beings.
There you go.
So we're radiant.
Yeah.
Could you read it again?
Sure. There is no creation that does not have a radiance, be it greenness or seed, blossom or beauty. It could not be creation without it.
Wonderful. And Hildegard, I ought to be able to pull this out of all the studies of medieval history, but she's one of the medieval Catholic mystics.
Mm-hmm.
And like a lot of the women mystics, more or less silenced in a patriarchal, priest, bishop dominated clergy. But she still got there and expressing it in such wonderful terms, expressing the radiance. So that's wonderful. Thank you. And I'm trying to remember if she was like 14th century or 15th century. It doesn't matter.
1100s.
1100s. Oh,
Yeah.
even earlier. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, friends, there's time for more, and maybe this was enough. So, Helen.
Okay, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this?
It looks like a yellow rose.
It is. It's just a little yellow rose bud.
Uh-huh.
And it got caught in the fence in the community garden. And so I had to take it off, but I brought it home in my pocket. And now it has completely dried in just a couple of days. And it is exquisitely fragrant.
Nice. Lovely. All right. Steve.
In the beginning, I thought this teaching was just so basically simple.
Mm-hmm.
Why was I struggling so much with it? I guess it was because I get in the way too often or too much.
Mm-hmm.
But then as we went through further along, I don't know, I feel a little overwhelmed at the moment. Like almost too much input. And so this is going to be an interesting week of me dwelling on this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I thank you for it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
but is my initial understanding right? Like just coming home to yourself is so basically simple that It's easy to miss.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot of permission to, if that's all you take from this and that's the practice you do for the week, great. So all the different metaphors, like they're intended to be helpful, but that's enough.
Mm.
So, um, and then, it's another classic thing they say about Mahamudra is it's so simple. It's hard to take in because we've been trained to think it should be more complex or more something else. And it's like we're just being us. Like it's very direct. And so they say three things that there are three negatives. It's so simple you can't take it in. It's so true that you don't believe it. That can't be so. That there's this taken for granted flowing quality, but every time you go back, it's there. Like you can test, is it, and it's there. If it wasn't there, my trick question, and this is a little bit of Mahamudra judo, Mahamudra kung fu, that's sort of a real mashup of Tibetan and Chinese things. But, try to find when it's not there. You won't be able to because you need awareness to find it or find that it's not there. Awareness is always there. Right? So it's so true, but we don't believe it. We think, oh, it's got to be something else. No, it's this thing that's always there. Right? So it's so simple, it's so true, and it's so obvious. Oh, it can't be that. Can't be this taken for granted thing. It's got to be special. Right? So all of those are very, like the ways that we get in our own way. Or maybe to draw on the Great Way teachings of Buddhism or the Great Way teachings, let's leave it there. We're not often that nice to ourselves. We're often very harsh and very judgmental. Maybe none of us. But if it's you, you know who we are. I know, I know when I'm harsh to myself and judgmental, and that's not okay. That's not good enough. All that's, or I can do better, or, this is because of some way that I'm, some mistake or hurt that I'm carrying for however many years, right? And then we have these stories that we tell ourselves in which we're not okay, in which we're hurt, or we need to be fixed, or we're broken, or we're not smart enough, or we're not, something enough. That's where the masters come in. So it's part of why we imagine the masters. Somebody giving us, and I love thinking about this woman who was my 11th grade English teacher. She was a pretty normal person. She was a mom and she had kids that went to the same school and, but she was incredibly kind and very awake. I could also think of Kempo Sultram or Trungpa Rinpoche or, the Sakyong, all my teachers. But it doesn't have to be somebody famous. It doesn't have to be the Dalai Lama, Pema Chodron, Kempo Sultram. It could be Mrs. Lockhart or whoever that would be for you, right? And imagine them sharing with you their ability. And part of that is we're going past the I'm not good enough. Because she would walk into class and she'd look at me and go, you're pretty smart. You can do better. Not you can do better like this wasn't good enough. It's like, let's see what you can do, So it wasn't the better you're not good enough. It was the like, well, let's dance, let's work, let's do the thing, right? And obviously that was 1971. Here I am 55 years later, still thinking about it. It's like, wow, that was pretty good, right? So a transformative quality of acceptance and warmth, like my dad at the door, right? Come on in, right? So we could be that way to ourselves. And then that's a key to opening up. So if any of that's useful for the overwhelm, I hope. And then if the other metaphors work, if any of them click with you, great. If they don't, okay. I got hundreds of them. I feel like an old Henny Youngman joke. I got hundreds of them. And then he'd do another bad joke. So back to you,
Okay.
Steve.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And thanks for hanging in there. Anyone else? All right, friends. Well, that might be enough. We should dedicate whatever goodness we accomplished. And then we'll be online again tomorrow, 8 a.m. Atlantic, and then noon Atlantic, 8 a.m. On the West Coast. And those of you who are in different time zones, as you're watching this, or if you're here, you can do the time math. So I think that's 10 a.m. and 6 a.m. in Chicago. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, something like that. Do the time math. So I will look forward to seeing you online. I really appreciate your being here. And let's dedicate the merit. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. May all beings experience the coming home to themselves. Good night.
Thanks, Brian.